Code Enforcement Committee to order. We have some visitors from Ansonia today. They do code enforcement. They are here to see how we do our stuff. Maybe we can introduce ourselves. I'm Guy Moore, and I'm the building official. I'm the chairman of the committee.
Tom Lozier, building inspector.
Rob Warrenville, Bristol Water Department.
Dave Clark, Public Works.
John Nevy, Bristol Development Authority.
Richard Lacey, Corporation Counsel.
Bob Cattell, code enforcement.
Anne Marie Sullivan, Community Services.
Sharon Wagner, Bristol Burlington Health District.
Phyllis Modio, Health District, welcome.
Joy Bolduc, Bristol Burlington Health.
Ian Henderson, Ansonia Anti-Blight Clerk.
I'm Rhonda Craney, Land Use Administrator.
Tim Callahan, Bristol Fire Marshal's Office.
Tom Denote, Assessor.
Teresa Babin, Tax Collector.
I think that's it for city officials. But you can see how most of the departments are represented. Because when we do code enforcement, it seems to go through every department. All right, number 2, approval of March 2016 minutes. Any changes? No?
Make a motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion of team inspections, take any action in this. Tom, you want to open up?
Yep, I got a couple here. 68 South Street Extension. A decision was made to rebuild the rear porches as opposed to relocating the 3 tenants that were in that building. That work is now currently being done. 54 Locust Street, we had an unsafe garage over there, and that demo has been done, and I believe a raise certificate has been issued. 23 Upson Street, over by the old Girls Club, we had a problem with some porches over there. The tenant's going to be the tenant complained, and the owner's come in and pull a permit. 73 Hague Avenue, that's just a vacant single-family house, back and forth with the bank, and I think we're going to put that on the demo list, but it is a vacant property, and I see you waiting there for. None of the properties I'm talking about are occupied. Yes. 6 Ridge Road, guys got a file on that we're going to discuss. 62 South Street Extension, that was brought to our attention by the fire department. The owner came in. He's going to be hiring a contractor to rebuild those front porches. 36 Eastview, that was a demo or restore letter that was sent to the owner, and we haven't heard back from him yet, but stay tuned on that one. And we have a vacant property on Fair Street. We're having problems with the owner selling vehicles out of there. Supposedly people are staying in a camper, and that was turned over to zoning, and Monica's going to be sending out a cease and desist order. So that's all I got.
And Monica's our zoning officer. She's on scene. Rob, you got anything?
I really don't. We were working with you guys. We had 7 multifamily properties that were scheduled for termination, which would impact, and basically 6 of them paid and 1 made payment arrangements. So nobody's getting shut off for it, so there's no relocations.
If the water department shuts off the service, and they don't have water service, then under the property maintenance code, they don't have, legal, one of the aspects that make it a dwelling unit, and I end up condemning it. And then Anne Marie has to relocate them, and it just goes through all the departments, but we've kind of got it down now where the water department lets us know what's going on, and go back and forth. Sometimes I let them know. Which pisses them off.
Once in a great while.
So which department is it that does the relocation?
Community services.
Okay.
Just a question for Bristol Burlington. Anything new with Stafford Ave with those wells? Are they contaminated? Are they?
No, we have wonderful news. I found out that the well was abandoned on 1008. That was the house on Stafford Avenue that had the massive fire, and that was demoed.
They hired Grilla?
Yep. just a little, since you had asked on it, just a little brief, can I talk about that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, what had happened is there was three houses on Stafford Avenue, they all had wells. There was a massive fire at 1008 Stafford Avenue, a total demolition, and what we believe to have happened is a few hours after the fire, the two neighboring houses started smelling a burnt odor in their wells. They're all shallow wells in that area. They're all wells that were in their basements. We were concerned at that point of possible oil contamination because we knew the oil tanks were in the basement. We knew the well was in the basement. Long story short, after a month of doing different rounds of testing, and then finally the crew was able to determine the oil tanks were intact and they were dismantled and removed properly. There was no oil contamination. So we think what had happened is probably the well cap came off, probably burnt off, and then just the normal debris from a fire and the amount of water that was used at the fire got down into the aquifer and went into the neighboring wells. There are some levels of what we call volatile organic compounds in the house closest to the one that had the fire. So the one farther away, she's fine, or they're fine, they can start using their water. Just to back up real quick, we had told them prior to us getting the results of the water test not to use their water. So for about a month, they were using bottled water. So the house farthest away, they're fine, all their tests came back fine. The one directly next to where the fire is, there's some elevated levels of some VOCs, not anything higher than what the state and the EPA calls a maximum contaminant level. In other words, if it was higher than a maximum contaminant level, it would be contaminated and DEP would get involved. But high enough that our State Department of Epidemiology was a little bit concerned. So what they said is to hold off on consuming the water. In about 3 or 4 weeks, we'll retest. Some of the elevated VOCs may have been a byproduct of they had flushed their water system out with chlorine, so it may have been a byproduct of the chlorine, and that's so. We're hoping that after a month or two of flushing the water supply, all those whatever got in there from the fire will be out of there. The good news for that particular person, if there is still some levels in there, is there is a city water line in the road that they're able to connect to. And also, if they wanted in the meantime to put on a carbon filter, they can do that. But I advise them not to. I know it's an inconvenience to use bottled water, but you know, why spend the money on the carbon filter if it's going to flush itself out?
Okay.
And thank you very much, Guy, for the building department was a tremendous help in assisting the health department in getting the well at 1008 where the fire was properly abandoned, so that there's no further source of it acting as a conduit for any contamination in the future.
And now if they rebuild there, they'll have to hook up to the water line.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
We had 2 fires, that one there and the one on George Street, and that's put a dent in our code enforcement budget. I think the demos are coming out of there. Cost of that. So I need more money, Teresa. Everybody notice that Bob's back?
How about Bob?
Bob's our part-time code enforcement officer. He comes on in the spring through the fall and does all the tall grass complaints, graffiti, and clothing drop boxes. They seem to multiply. Do you have anything, Dave?
Bunch of illegal bulk stops that I'm working on. I got one from Tom, O'Connell School, or illegal dumping. Didn't see anything there. If it's been removed or...
No, I talked to the lady at 14 Barn, and she removed it.
Okay.
So every time they drop bags there, she picks them up and throws them in her garbage, but she's tired of running back and forth, so she wanted to report it.
And you notified the PD, so that's the way
Yep.
to handle that.
Very good.
Yeah, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
23 Upson.
Yep.
That was the one I emailed you guys on. Now, was that complaint in before you got the email? I sent the email to the guy. Did she complain before, or was it after?
Well, I went out and because you sent the email to Guy and he wrote the letter. I posted it, and the tenant actually had me talk to the owner.
All right,
So
so
we
I
gave
gotta
him-
go there at 10 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
So I'm just wondering.
We gave him a little extra time.
This is the one with the front porch
Yeah,
phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You probably have the same, similar thing in Ansonia. There's a lot of multifamilies where, you know, they were built on iron posts instead of piers and, you know, good construction. They're all starting to fall off now. And the people who own them don't want to fix them. So it's like all at once. We've had probably 10 in the last month.
Yeah, we got 100% compliance. We don't have any bad porches.
We have one actually right now that's really bad. And how do you go about, if they just don't, they pulled a building permit and they're picking away at it really slowly. I mean, it's been how many months now that they've been working on this set of stairs? It's a 3-family. How long do you give them?
Well, and that's what we're going back and forth with this Upson Street, is they try to play a game where, okay, we'll stabilize it for, you know, we said to them, stabilize it right away and we won't take action and rebuild it. So they stabilize it and then they think they're going to wait until the middle of summer to start it. And that's not the case. We say it's unsafe, you have to start it right away. If they don't do it right away, we'll give them a couple weeks. Then I'll just hire a contractor and have them go do it. And if we've showed up with police officers and had work done, where the owner, you know, even I was fighting with a lawyer on the phone in the front yard on Lear Drive. If it's unsafe, it's unsafe, and you know, it's either you condemn the building and everybody's relocated, or the porch gets fixed. So that's
So you actually hire a
the
contractor?
chief's call.
You actually hire a
Yeah.
contractor and have them go out and build?
Yep. And there's a whole mechanism for that, and it goes back to the state statutes. Dick Lacy can fill you in on that, but we've worked that out over the years.
Yeah, essentially what we do is we treat code enforcement as a tax. And there's a provision in the statute that says if the building inspector certifies to the assessor and the tax collector that this was necessary to make property safe, sanitary, and secure, up to and including demolition, that can be added to the tax bill. And Teresa can tell you what happens after that, I guess.
So then I take the contractor invoice that I receive from the building department and I input that into our billing system and generate a tax bill. And we have up to 30 days from the date the work is complete to place a lien on the land records. So we do that right away now. We learned that's the best policy. So we lien it right away, we send out a bill, they have 30 days to pay without interest. If the bill goes unpaid, then we try to contact any banks that might have an interest in the property. And eventually, when the bank wants to pay their regularly scheduled July or January installment, then I scoop up that money and I apply it to the back code enforcement bills and take it from there.
And especially a case with a multifamily, if it's 3 and above, fire department works with us. So now you got 2 departments saying it's unsafe, you got to fix it right away. If they're fooling around with it, you know, it puts all the occupants in danger. You make a decision that, you know, you need it done.
Right. The other question I have is now, if you have a 3-family, which we're working on one right now, and you're dragging your feet, once we close off the rear entries, okay, on a 3-family, can we relocate immediately? Because there is no 2 means of egress.
Yeah.
We take that position.
You've taken that position, because
We
the way I look at it
consistently take that
is,
position.
and the way I look at it, if Nick Balloon says the building is unsafe, he's our building official, and once he deems that building or that section of the building unsafe to occupy, and we allow it to be occupied, now we're liable.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
There's that case in Waterbury where it was an illegal 3rd-floor apartment. Someone died in it. It's real clear that we can't allow stuff like that to go on.
And human safety first.
You know, I work very close with the fire marshal, and that's our point.
But
We always ask, you know, when the homeowner gives you well, I don't have the money, what do you value a human life at?
Right.
There's no price tag on
No.
it, so I don't care what it costs, get it fixed or we close it down.
You need to have your administration, your mayor or whatever, and behind you too, though.
Right, well, we don't have that. We have corporation counsel and our mayor against us.
That's not good.
I'm always in the office, trust me.
Then you'll be fighting an uphill battle all the time.
It's expensive, and that's probably why some of the
No.
administrations are...
Do you have, what I'm curious is, do you have a remediation fund set up in this town?
Yes.
Okay, now how does that work?
We tried to get Board of Finance to do it for 5 or 6 years. Kept fighting us. So they'd have to allocate $50,000 at a time or whatever. So then it was being done in, I think, Meriden and a few other towns. So finally, someone said, why don't we just have this money just go back into a fund for you, and it funds itself? I said, hey, that's a good idea. So the Board of Finance voted to open an account, and the money that Teresa collects that has to do with code enforcement goes back into it. So it just keeps funding itself.
Now, does it roll over every year?
Mm.
Okay, because they won't let us roll it over.
Well,
I mean, they give me very limited funds
when
to do anything.
they say they can't do something, you think, well, there's some law, there's some federal laws. There isn't. It's just that somebody doesn't want to do it on
Doesn't
that
want to
board.
do it.
That's all it is.
Correct.
So I finally learned that, you know. So
Yeah.
that's when my hairs gray. But it works now for us.
Right, because that's what I tried to do when I began the job, and that's what I believe where I was working on now, is we're trying to get, you know, you gave me $50,000 for remediation, okay, but anything more, and let's say I brought in $40,000 on a lien, well, that $40,000 goes into the general fund, where I'm saying, give me that $40,000 so I
Right.
can continue my work.
Ours used to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But the finance doesn't want to do it that way.
well,
They see it as revenue, I guess, I don't know.
you can go back to them and tell them to get a hold of Glenn Klocko,
Mhm.
our comptroller,
Okay,
and talk it over with him.
okay.
What are we on, number 4? Discussion of new properties of interest. Does anybody have anything? New?
Well, 2 Laurel Place that we're doing
2
today.
Laurel?
Yeah. Tim said that place is a mess.
Well, it was originally, and I had him working on it a little bit, and he came and did a few things, and the biggest problem there was his storage issue, basically, to the side of the building, left side of the building, if you're facing the front of it, that staircase, that gets a little tight in there, he was supposed to do a few things in there. This is Lenny, right, Mans?
Yeah.
And when I went back, they had done some of it, but I doubt very much if he's kept up with it. If I remember correctly, I think the building's alarmed. So,
Isn't that the building that always, in the past, had the
Yeah.
sewage backups too, in the sewage?
Yeah.
Yeah. the sewage
They
valve.
I think they finally connected.
Yeah,
to the
maybe,
city
I know.
sewer.
I know that's not the one that faces Laurel Street, right?
they face
No.
each other. There's 1357 where the porches are built, with the guy has a dog hole, you know, for his dog to stick his head out. That's on the other side, and then
Yeah, I think the
Lenny's
one
place.
that faces Laurel Street connected to city sewer, but I don't think the ones on
Oh, right.
that road did. I don't know if that's part of your inspection, but there's a file on that they continually have problems.
This been going on for a while? Too long?
Well, the septic problem happens periodically. But the first building hooked up to the city sewer.
Yeah.
But this woman complaining, I mean, it's everything from, you know, asbestos and holes and front doors nailed shut and wires exposed in the basement.
okay, this is probably happened after I went in there the last time. I mean, I know I abated the place, and he had to, he had to figure some of it out.
Weren't we there in the last spring or something like that?
For the, well, we were there for his rear, the side porch and the other side, both side porches. But inside, as far as doors nailed shut and stuff, I don't know if that's happened after we left, so. When you going there, Karen?
11 o'clock today?
Okey-doke.
Karen's the housing inspector, so the tenants will call her. If there's a tenant complaint, they call the health department first. And then she gets a hold of us if there's issues, and she knows now, you know, what the issues could be. It would involve building or fire. And we'll go out with her. And then if we find stuff that needs to be repaired, we issue orders too. But if this has been going on, and the landlord hasn't been repairing things, then that ends up causing condemnation. And it is occupied, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I just got everybody out of hotels. So does the housing inspector come out of the building department or the housing authority?
The health department.
The health department, okay.
And there's a housing code of ordinances. There's all kinds of stuff, tools we have. So Karen has her own set. She's also, she can also use the property maintenance code when she goes out. I can use the building code. Tim can use the fire code. So we apply all those different aspects to it. So when we build a case, if we have to go to court, if someone actually says, oh, you know, you violated my rights, you know, I think you're unfair with this. We usually have enough evidence to support the violations and the action we took.
And Guy, I don't know if you shared with them our citation powers also?
What's that?
The powers of citation from...
We also adopted a citation ordinance where we can write out citations for violations. And it's usually for things that we can't abate. It doesn't make sense to abate. Someone has 3 junk cars in their yard and they've been warned and they haven't appealed it. Well, then the zoning officer will start sending out tickets. Karen will issue orders for landlords to fix doors and windows and screens and stuff like that. And they don't do it, then she'll issue citations. And so there's another avenue that it just keeps the pressure on property owners to keep up their properties.
It also funds code enforcement too, because that money goes back into our account.
And if they don't pay the citations, Dick, or do you have to go to court to collect it, or?
Well, what we do, we've got an internal appeals process. We have a citation hearing officer, and if you do issue a citation, you have a hearing right here in this room, and he's a retired code guy, and he kind of says up or down, and he has the authority to compromise that. And Karen's been through the process a number of times.
We have one tomorrow.
Okay. After that, they have a right to appeal to Superior Court. That's rarely done. And at that point in time, there's a procedure where for $8, we can take the citation and make it a judgment. And that's what we always do. And then we put judgment liens on all the properties. The little twist in the law is that if the citation is related to some issue of safety or a sanitary issue or a falling porch, something like that, that gets priority. It doesn't get first priority like taxes and water, but we're after taxes and water for the tickets that were issued. So if, in the event of a foreclosure, or if we even want to foreclose ourselves, it's another powerful tool that's kind of buried in the statute there. I don't think anybody's really using it except us.
So the citation happens if you send out an order that the porch has to be repaired within 30 days, whatever you give them. They don't do it. So now you could issue a citation, which is a monetary fine?
Yeah,
A ticket.
I could.
Now, is that established by your legislature in town?
Yeah. The state allows you to set up a system, and we adopted an ordinance, I think, in '06, maybe?
Yeah, we just amended it too, yep.
Yeah.
I found a statute that I used, I think twice now, where it's a misdemeanor, and it's issued by the police, and they have to appear in housing court. That's what I've been using.
Nice.
I find it much more effective than keep on going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I send them the notices, they don't comply within it, then it's a failure to comply, it's a misdemeanor.
Yeah, because gets kind of frustrating sending out letters and orders and then people just
Right.
ignoring them.
And then I
There's no
just hand my
consequence.
whole file to the policeman, he takes it, makes a copy, sends it to the,
Well, that's
along
good.
with the misdemeanor.
Well, we do the arrest warrants too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We go to housing court.
That's not a lot of fun though.
No.
It's not even quicker sometimes.
It's not quick
It
at all.
seems like it.
I mean, we've been told,
Years.
do you guys ever work with Judy DeSheen from the
Yeah.
state? I mean, you know, you gotta have
Yeah.
the paper trail forever. Give them
Yep.
30 days, another 30 days, then it might take a year to get somebody to come work.
But if you give them a ticket frequently, I mean, theoretically, you can give them one ticket every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of these are low end, maybe $80, the high end, maybe hundreds of dollars. depending
Well, the
on-
lowest is $108.
Yeah.
But I've had some of them up in the thousands.
Yeah, I know.
1,100.
And that gets their attention.
Yeah.
Well, usually that's about the only way you do get their attention, when you hit them in the pocket.
I think they've changed all that. And they also have an ordinance with the tickets. If they don't pay it within 30 days, the ticket doubles, and if they don't pay it within another time period, the ticket triples.
Yeah, we've got one
So,
gentleman, we've got over $40,000 worth of tickets,
Yeah.
and he's making payments, you know, $5,000 payments on them, but, I mean, that really gets their attention.
yeah. What's that?
We wrote a lot of tickets at one point for this one person.
Yeah.
And,
All right, number 5, review of new, restore, demolish orders, take any action as necessary. There's a bunch of orders, bunch of addresses on the list. Just wanted to go over them quickly. I brought the file for 6 Ridge Road. And this is where properties have been abandoned, they've been foreclosed on, people have left, and then no maintenance has been done on them. And then the neighbors complain. We have them cleaned up through abatement, and they still remain vacant. Send letters to the bank, okay, you have to do something. They don't do anything. So under the building code, section 115, it's a restore or demolish order. It's been vacant for more than 6 months. You can issue an order. So I started doing that, and it's been successful about half the time. We get banks to fix properties, and then we're faced with one that they don't respond at all. And this is one of them, 6 Ridge Road. It's a nice little ranch in a nice area, but there's holes in the roof now, and it's just trashed. So it's slated to be demolished. And it seems that that's the only way to get rid of these blighted properties, through demolition.
So now does the city take over the property once they,
Well, we're going to lien it
That's
for
what
the
I'm-
cost of the demo, and if the bank pays it, then they retain ownership of the lot. And how, would you say it's 50/50?
Yeah, what we're doing to kind of ramp it up a little bit, because oftentimes the lot isn't worth as much as the demo.
Yeah.
And if it's bank-owned, we sue the bank on the taxes.
We have one in town that's slated to come down. It's not bank-owned. The house has no mortgage, it's mortgage-free. But the cost, because we were talking about a hot removal, because it's that unsafe to go in. And there's no way the city could ever recoup. And that's what's slowing down the process of them taking down the building. Because they're getting estimates up to $80,000, because it's got to be a hot removal.
Right.
But still, it doesn't change the fact that we got to take the building down. It is that unsafe.
Yeah. That's what happens. That's where the administration has to decide, is it worth it for the town to absorb that cost and get rid of that blight?
I keep trying to tell the fire department to use them as training center.
The other one significant is 36 Eastview. Rob, do you know about that one?
No, that wasn't on the other list, right? That's brand new?
That came real quick. We've had code issues there for a couple of years with the owner, just kind of a junk collector, kind of always chasing me, clean up a little bit. Finally lost the house, which always seems to happen. And Tom went there, it was real bad. And they actually had made conditions worse there instead of actually improving them. I guess he tried to do restoration work, but he actually made it worse.
Made it worse.
So the house needs to come down.
So an order has been written at this point?
Yeah.
So you want the water off there then?
Yeah.
That will happen today. Is he there?
No. No, it's vacant.
We cleaned it up, boarded it up. The bank sent somebody out there to clean the interior of the house, and supposedly there was an infestation of rats inside. So the neighbors just fed up with it.
So what's the next process? You're going to go out for pricing to take it down, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you have a contractor at that point, let us know.
Yep.
But we'll get the water off today.
Right. And the other ones, the two on Pleasant View, what happens a lot of times, the banks hire, what's the name of that company, Safeguard? Supposedly that are going to go and, stabilize the property, maintain it. And they don't do anything, they charge the banks. And it's worse than when they got there. So that was the case with one of the houses. And again, was a nice house, could have been fixed up. It just has deteriorated to the point where the carport's falling off and trash all over the yard. So I issued the order, and Dick left. He had to file. Let's see what he was trying to get the bank to do something. So we've learned that it's better to try as much as we can before we take them down. Contact the bank, make some kind of contact them to just knock them down. And we still don't seem to get anywhere, but at least if push comes to shove and we have to go to court over it, there's enough evidence that we tried to tell them that it was blighted. And just take a lot of pictures.
Well, the bank remediated one that was in foreclosure. We've been looking at the bank. I went out there yesterday, and they built new steps on the porch. The first step is 14 inches high.
Wow.
They just went down to Home Depot, bought pre-cut stringers,
right,
hooked them to the porch, and whatever else, they just put 4x4s underneath, stacked them up. That's how the banks work.
Yeah, and the banks, they'll hire these property maintenance companies. The property maintenance companies go to Labor Ready or just hire whoever that aren't licensed contractors. They aren't supposed to be working on the houses anyway, so we've had that problem a lot. Is there any questions on those properties? Any new business?
What happened with East Main? East Main Street.
It turns out that's a historic building. It's on the historic register, so it's going to have to now get a sign up for 90 days,
Okay.
which, if he had taken out the permit to begin with, we could have done that, and 90 days would have been up by now. How many buildings do you have in Ansonia that are questionable?
Our what?
Do you have a lot of buildings, or?
It's a very good, the town is not very big, it's only 19,000 population, but it's an old factory town.
Yeah.
And multifamily, and then, with no side yards, some of them, are so close together, it's very condensed.
We have some of them, you're 2 feet off the side.
So you can knock down 3 or 4 at a time.
Well, that's why sometimes, when the fire alarm goes in, I tell the guy, don't drive too fast.
I show Rhonda a house up on a street we call Jewett. The name of the street is Jewett. You walk out the front door, you're on the road.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you could open your door and get hit by a car. That's how close some of these are. Because, back in the day, it's like, you ever been out to Newport and see somebody's house, how close we got a whole bunch.
If we took down the buildings that should be taken down, we'd probably go down to a population of about 5,000.
I mean, the best thing that's happened, we've taken down the housing project. We got 4 buildings left, I think, that are vacant, and they're due to come down in the next few months. But the wisdom of the federal government, before they took the first 10 down, they built a brand-new power plant. Spent $800,000 to heat four buildings, because one of the 10 that were scheduled to come down had the boiler room in it. I said, well, leave that one till last. That's not the way it works.
All right, any old business? No? That's it, I guess. Motion adjourned?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.